Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. And we're back with our Thursday night show, After Dark. We're discussing Fulham's fantastic win at Wolves on Tuesday. And we're going to be looking forward to the fifth round FA Cup game with Manchester United, our bogey team, on Sunday. And this is Dave. And as usual, I'm joined by the Thursday night MVP. It's Mary Southgate, otherwise known as Townsend. And Mary,
Thank you.
before we start, I think I remember you predicting us to beat Palace last Saturday. So you've got some explaining to do.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. I just have no words for the fact that we still literally had no shots. And I thought we was going to win. So, yeah, not ideal. And I know we're going to touch on Man United later, but I just also want to mention our last predictions against Man United. They also were not ideal. So, I think we'll have a rethink later once we've discussed that. But Palace, I'm happy to move past that and look at the Wolves game because what a win that was. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight. Lots to talk about, and hopefully got some people in the chat to join in.
That would be great. Yeah, anyone who is following along, please send in your comments, your questions, your abuse, and we'll pick the best ones and talk about those during the show. We're also joined by That's So Craven's breakthrough star of the year. It's Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Well, thanks for the intro, Dave. Just happy to be here. Like you said, so much to discuss. That Wolves game really put, it's like we can't decide whether we want to be in Europe or not. So we just start playing with our emotions from a week to week basis. But yeah, happy to be here and happy to kick it off.
Brilliant. And as Steve says, you're our lucky charm, Mark. So, and Mary, you both are lucky charms. Sorry, I thought it said Mark, but it actually says Mary. Your names are so similar when they're written. So, but yes, we got the lucky charms here. We need those lucky charms for Sunday, I think. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. So let's get into it. Just before we do start again, a little later, we're going to be joined by someone who's very well known on Fulham X for being Sasa Lukic's number one fan, primarily. It's the first pod appearance from Dazza. So we're really excited to welcome Dazza along. So, right, look, after Palace at home last Saturday, I don't think the fan base are feeling particularly confident about going to Molineux, considering we hadn't won there since, I think, 1982 in the league. I think that's what Fulham Fan News said on our Discord a couple of days ago. So, look, Mark, when you saw the lineup, when you after the Palace game, how are you feeling before the game on Tuesday?
It was an interesting lineup for sure. I was actually pretty sure Pereira was going to start just because ESR came out off with that knock, right? And he, I'm a big advocate of ESR within the group chat and the Discord. I think there's quality there. I think he needs time, but anyway, regardless, the performances weren't there. Pereira, I was pretty confident was going to come in, and he did come in, and it turned out great. Sess was a bit of a surprise. And I believe it was Skibby that said, well, maybe the upcoming match in the FA Cup against United, maybe that's a priority. And if that's the case, we're going to rest some key players, which we did. So it was an interesting lineup. It was a brave lineup. I guess that's what Marco's thinking was going towards. But yeah, it worked out well because, like you said, we haven't won against Wolves in a long time. And the previous match, right, we said they're in a false position in the league. And I believe that this time round as well. But, we had a different result this time because I guess we had a different strategy, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, it was one I could sense there was a lot of negativity, a bit of a meltdown after Saturday's game. And I was actually quite pleased that the game came around so quickly because it just gave us a chance to put that game behind us and, go out there and put it right, I think, bounce back, which Fulham have done quite well so far this season. Mary, I'm not sure that before the game on Tuesday, the lineup, as Mark said, very different, lots of changes. We saw, Sess come in. How were you feeling? Did you think that, were you nervous about the game? Were you kind of resigned that it could be another difficult night, or did you kind of feel confident that Fulham would put in a performance?
I think we knew it would be a difficult night, 100%. Possibly an unexpected win as well. A Tuesday night, we know how the last game went against Wolves at home, but I did think it would be tricky. I was surprised to see 5 changes, to be fair, but I wasn't surprised in like a negative way. And I think thinking about like Marco Silva, he's an absolute genius again. But he sort of had one eye on this Sunday and thinking about FA Cup and showing that like quite a big statement, like it's important to him, important to the club, and resting some key players. But then also making sure we've got rotation, because Tuesday was such a quick. Like I agree with you, I think it was really beneficial that it came around so quickly, so we could bounce back from Palace. But we needed some rotation, and I think he's shown the right sort of balance there. I didn't expect us to go 5 at the back, but it worked, really worked. And I know we're touching it later, but I don't know what we'll do for this Man United game. But yeah, I was actually really impressed with everybody that played. Sess, what a goal. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute, but he was brilliant. Castagna, he's playing every minute, and I think that's really tough on him. But there's not much we can really do on that. I think there's a lot of pressure on him at the moment. Whether he's feeling that or not, I don't know. We won't know. But he's playing a lot of minutes. But for those that were able to rotate, really beneficial. And I think for those that were starting, gave them that start. But then it also meant we had such a strong bench.
Yeah.
Like every player on that bench was just bringing extra onto that pitch. So yeah, I didn't think we'd lose. I thought it'd be a really tough game and we'd get a draw or a win. But I really like what Marco Silva did with the lineup.
Yeah, certainly freshened things up. Like you, I was surprised at 5 at the back, but we have got decent strength in depth this season. It's as strong a squad as I can remember, really. Diop's been excellent when he's been called upon this year. I think we've seen some really good performances from Cuenca and Sess in the Cup. So this was their first real opportunity in the league. Cuenca, of course, played Liverpool very well, but I think, it's been his first game in a while. And yeah, AP, I think, has been knocking on the door with his substitute performances recently, where I think back in that number 10 role, he looks like he's kind of thriving again. So that's really good to see. And I think, Mooney's another player that's knocking on the door for a start. So all of those players had an opportunity on Tuesday and to, stake a claim. And I think they really took it. I thought they all played really well. Obviously, we had the magical start to the game with a fantastic goal. And, it comes, I think, initially from a pass from Anderson into Rodrigo Muniz on the halfway line. And I thought he did brilliantly to kind of hold the ball up and play in Andreas. And Andreas had the awareness to know that Sess was on the outside. I mean, Mark, Sess is such a hero at Fulham from his previous spell, and the fact that he came through our academy. I mean, is it a little bit more sweet when Sess gets us a goal?
Oh, 100%. I think everyone's rooting for him, right? Because we know that he was our star boy, came through the academy, left the right way, left with the fans' blessing, and we got a good fee, which is always nice than someone leaving for peanuts to a certain other different club. But, he's got huge footballing IQ. And I was more confident than usual whenever we see a Fulham player get in a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And Sess, we've seen him make that run before in his youth, and he just did it again, and it was beautiful. And just to touch on that, I think this was a clear example of Marco doing his homework on Wolves as well. Their number 4, Santiago Bueno, he did not have a good game. And I think he was done for pace twice with that move, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think it was really interesting. And Wolves did their homework as well. So, we'll talk about Gomez later and that goal. But yeah, it was a beautifully crafted move. And just to touch on one more little thing, because I love getting, excited and passionate and a little bit worked up about these things. But, those who don't give us credit, it's not the Fulham crowd, but other people saying, oh, Wolves were asleep and, you just caught them flat-footed. Well, we came up with that move, right? It's not like the ball just rolled in by itself. When Bournemouth did that really beautiful move against us with Solanke on the end of it, everyone was singing them praises. But when it's Fulham, it's just like, oh yeah, well, that's a bit. I just wish we had a little bit more credit from other fans and pundits. So just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Like, when we play a big team or when we win, like unless it's a thrashing, we don't really get talked about. It's that other team struggled more than Fulham succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah, there does tend to be a little bit more analysis on, how poorly the opposition played, doesn't there? Whether it's a big team or we're away from home, that's the only way we seem to be able to win or compete in those games is if the other team plays badly. So I agree.
That's the feeling.
Mary, how pleased were you to see Sess on the score sheet? And also, when you saw him race through on goal, did you have any doubt that he wasn't going to stick that in the back of the net?
No, like what? Well, that whole move, can I just say, was so good. Not only was it in the first minute, which just showed how like all guns blazing we were ready for this game, but which I also think was helped, by the way, with the rotation. I think it meant we had so much like freshness and energy from the off. But from Anderson's pass, breaking line straight up to Rodrigo, I think, like you touched on, the way he held that ball up. With two players like pressing him as well, so good, and just showed his strength up top with his hold up play, which we know he's really good at. AP stretching for that ball, like showed us a commitment to get the ball from Muniz. He had to stretch for it, and he did. And then, as soon as Sess had it, great forward touch, and to be honest, no doubt that it was going in the back of the net. So composed, which. For Sess, after the year he's had, or the couple years he's had, I think fair play to him. That he's just shown that he's still, that he's growing in confidence. That would only have boosted it, but there's a lot of strikers that would not have buried that straight away. And actually, Sess has just put that straight in the back of the net. So delighted for him. I'd like to see him get more minutes. I can't see him starting many games, but I'd like to see him be involved a little bit more, coming on, which we have seen he has been recently. But what a finish. And I think you can see he's buzzing about it. But what has it been, 2 years since his league goal?
I believe so, yeah. I believe it has been 2 years. And it just felt like a throwback to 5 years ago when he used to play for us the first time. When he was in those positions in the box, 9 times out of 10, he would find the net. He just has a bit of a composure, I think, in and around the box, not just with finishing, but also kind of, with his assists. So I think he's a really, starting to prove that he's been really a good addition, and hopefully just keeps getting better. I think, as you say, Mary, as well, we saw it. I think it was Palace did. We moved to 3 at the back near the end, and instead of kind of Sess replacing Robinson tucked into the back 3 and then let Sess out there. Was it Palace that happened? Or was it the game before? Either way, I've seen that happen. So I'm not sure. I think that's an option for us too, to have them on the pitch at the same time at certain moments. But look, I think everyone was delighted to see him get his first goal and take his chance. After that, Mark, the first early spells we looked quite lively. Rodrigo was getting a lot of success with his hold up play. And but then shortly after that, Wolves started coming into the game, and we almost all of a sudden looked a little bit shaky at the back. And I think it was just getting used to that formation again. But we just looked a little bit nervous, a little bit all over the place, and Wolves started coming back into the game. So it wasn't a big surprise to me when they did score. Did you think it was coming?
Yeah, I think we were discussing on the chat, and I agree. I think, like I said, they did their homework as well. They probably knew Castagna is exhausted. He just played a few days ago. He's been the sole starting first team right back that we can call upon since King Kenny's been injured. And I watched a Wolves sort of post-match to try and get their side of it. I found it really interesting that they thought Cunha and Ait-Nouri didn't really perform, or at least this guy did. It was his opinion, because I thought they weren't, absolutely on fire. Cunha wasn't like last time, but I think he still did quite well. And I think it was Ait-Nouri and Bellegarde were double teaming Castagna on on the left-hand side, so our right back position, and they were just whipping in like 2 or 3 crosses, and they were dangerous. They were coming in at pace. They had a few people inside the box, and yeah, it was worrying. When it's just, this is how you know you're a Fulham fan. I just thought, we're going to get lucky once or twice, but one of those is going to reach someone, and we got let off the hook because Gomez sent it over a little bit off target the first time round. Then he gets pretty much the same opportunity. Still a little bit fortuitous because I think it hits, I don't know who else is in the box, but it kind of comes off another Wolves player and then drops really sweetly for Gomez. But he's there. He makes his own luck. He ran in the box. He found himself in a good position. This time he executed. So it's just a little disappointing that that there's going to be any good team, especially one of Wolves' caliber, who are playing at home. They're going to be G'd up if they let in a goal. The next 10 minutes, they're going to come at you hard. And, I wish we did better to defend. I wish we did better to slow down the pace of the game, to maintain compose. But I think they really rattled us with those attacks from the left.
Yeah. Mary, your thoughts? I mean, going in, I suppose, towards the end of the half, were you quite, I suppose, disappointed that we didn't make more of our good start? And at half time, how did you feel? Did you think that was a fair result at half time, or did you think, how did you see it?
I think on the whole, 1-1 was probably fair, because Wolves, like we said, did have a spell where they were on the front foot, and I think they gave us some warning signs just before they scored. Quite obviously, they were going to want to equalise. So I think they were pushing for that goal, which they eventually got. We had some chances. Traore, I'm loving seeing him get some shots off, by the way, recently, since he's been starting. And I think he's another one that's probably grown in confidence now that he's starting again. But I think on the whole, 1-1 was fair going in. Didn't expect the response we had to the second half, though. Like, what a start. Straight away, another goal. So I don't know what that chat was at half time, but it was, I don't think we've scored that many straight off, straight after the half. So brilliant. And again, in very similar sort of pass as the first goal. We completely split through that back line with another great ball from Traore. And Muniz, I mean, the composure from him to do that chip straight for the second goal was outstanding. But yeah, I just think it just showed like the passion that the guys have to go and get that win straight away. And what I noticed with that second goal is that as soon as Traore got the ball, Muniz was off. So I think it's something they had really talked about in their training spell. I know they didn't have long for this game, but something that was obviously talked about was those gaps through their back line, because, like I said, as soon as Traore had it, Muniz was off. He span and he knew that ball was coming to him. So yeah, I think 1-1 was fair, and then what starts the second half?
Brilliant. And as you say, another like great moment from Traore, who obviously created the one of the goals, first goal against Forest 2 weeks ago, for another fantastic pass. And it's it was a kind of ball you don't normally see him on the left. He'd obviously moved to the left. Andreas had switched to the right in that particular moment. And when he gets the ball, he just slips in right behind the defender. Fabulous pass. But I think it's all about the finish. I mean, the finish is, I said it in the group at the time, sexy. It's a sexy finish. I mean, I couldn't think of any other word to describe it. Mark, what did you make of it?
A finish full of confidence and skill, obviously. And really quick thinking from Muniz to receive the ball, well drilled, right? Look up and realize that Sa has really aggressively positioned himself, like basically in no man's land. He's not close enough to block it, but he's not far enough back where he can sort of rely on his defenders to help out a little bit or have enough reaction time to the shot. And just, a sumptuous dink. Absolutely loved it. And like Mary said, 2 fantastic quick fire goals. We don't really see that from Fulham. I wondered what team I was watching. So loved it.
It usually happens against us, conceding after half time. That's it. So it's quite refreshing to see it happen to us. So and actually, after that goal, I just thought it was such a great second half. I thought we completely controlled the game. You know, we really restricted Wolves to very little chances after that. And in fact, we had a lot of our own. You know, a bit later on as the half went on, we started to bring the cavalry off the bench. As Mary said earlier, we had a really strong bench because we'd made so many changes. And look, you know, I think most of the subs that came on carried the same level of performance as the players on the pitch. It was just generally all round a good, you know, everyone got minimum 7 out of 10, I thought. But we did have some chances to wrap it up, Mark. And Raul in particular had 2, didn't he? Came on for Muniz. And actually, kind of it's 2 questions really, because earlier on in our group, Jack asked a question for the pod, which was, you know, is there anything to be read into Muniz coming off, you know, when he did, you know, and Raul coming on? Is that an indication that, you know, Muniz could start on Saturday? Because I guess the theory would be if he'd stayed on the whole game, you know, less likely that he'd start on Sunday because, you know, he's just giving Raul a rest for the weekend. But the fact that he kind of came off and Raul replaced him, does that suggest that maybe he's done enough for Silva to potentially include him? So I guess it's questions of that. And, you know, what did you make of the chances that we had later on in the half?
Yeah. Wow. A lot to unpack there.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. The chances, I think he should have done better. For someone that's one of the most highly paid and a very technical and gifted striker, he should have done better. And the first one, it was almost like he knew he thought he was offside, so he's just like, whatever, it's not going to count anyway, and sort of try and hit it past Saar. The second one, yes, there's a few defenders in the way, but you know, I think if it were up to me, and we know what he brings, and I actually think he's going to start against United in the FA Cup because Silva likes the fact that he can drop deep, collect the ball, recycle it, move it around. All the other stuff, which in my opinion are kind of nice to haves as a striker. They complete a striker. They elevate them from a good striker to an exceptional striker. But a good striker also bags goals consistently. And Raul just, for me, hasn't been that consistent. I think it was just to get minutes in both of their legs. Like I said, I think Raul will start. But I wouldn't mind hooking Raul at halftime against United if he's not doing it. I think Muniz should get as much time as possible. I just think Marco, you know, he has his, not his favorites, but he has his favorite way of playing and the players that fit that profile. But what do you guys think? Do you think maybe this is Muniz's opportunity to shine against United, or do you think those were actually difficult chances that Raul had? So, you know, maybe he wasn't expected to score either of them.
Yeah, I think on the Muniz shout, I'll come back to that when we get to the Man United preview, I think. But on the on Raul chances, yeah, I was a little disappointed with the first one. Don't get me wrong. I thought that the first chance he did great movement to get away and into so much space. But yeah, look, he kind of put it at a nice height for the keeper, really. And it was a bit disappointing because we just seem to love 2-1, don't we? We can't seem to ever get like 2 goals ahead and make us all feel really comfortable. Yeah, so I think that first one I was a bit disappointed, but also not entirely surprised. I mean, I think now after Tuesday night, Muniz has only got 1 goal less than Raul in open play, and he's played less than half the minutes. So I think, you know, I recall Raul over the course of the season, as well as he's played, he hasn't been as clinical from open play as, you know, I think Muniz has been in the opportunities that he's had. So yeah, I think he should do better. So Mary, your thoughts on that, and also Mary, your thoughts on how you thought the back three played in the second half, Diop, Cuenca, and Anderson.
Yeah, well, pretty much same as what you've all said. I think Raul, they were good chances. We should have gone 3-1 up, and that would have been ideal because Wolves didn't really do anything in the second half, which sort of leads on to the back line. I think defensively we had a very good defensive block, very good setup, and I think having that back three really helped us with that. We were just really solid, which showed in the fact Wolves didn't have any chances, but it was a shame that we couldn't go 3-1 up. I think Raul should have done better. But there we go. But yeah, back three, really good. Cuenca, not surprised that like he came off eventually because he hasn't been playing 90. So it makes sense that he came off, same as Sess, and bring on Bassi, who we know is so solid. But yeah, all of them for the whole second half, really good defensive block, really solid. And to be fair, like Wolves huffed and puffed, but like I said, didn't really create anything. So other than Cuenca made, not Cuenca, sorry, Castagna made a great block.
Yeah, he did
at the end, which was crucial. So fair play to him with that. But yeah, really good. I think then we made a good second half account for ourselves, just in our desire to get those points as well. But it would have been much more comfortable if Raul had just finished.
Yeah.
Finished one of his chances.
Yeah, and just to piggyback Mary's point, I think we're so lucky that we basically have 4 center backs that I'm pretty comfortable with. Like, yes, the preference is when they're all at their best, Anderson and Bassi, but Cuenca doesn't look as out of place as, you know, sorry to throw him under the bus, but Benda does sometimes. Like, I'm okay with Cuenca coming in. I'm okay with Diop coming in. He handled Cunha pretty well. Cunha was getting frustrated, and then the crowd was getting frustrated with him. So, yeah, I think they both did pretty decently. I do wish sometimes Diop, I did notice some of the balls coming in, he would just send them straight back out, but half the time sending it straight back out just gave it back to a Wolves player. I would wish sometimes if he's not under pressure that he can recognize that moment and then collect the ball. And even if he just recycles it to someone else on the wing or back to Anderson, you know, we don't need to panic clear if we're not under pressure. But overall, very strong showing from both of them.
Yeah, I think you're right on that point on the centre backs. I'd argue that that's the strongest element of our like squad in terms of depth. You know, like as you say, you know, Anderson's out, Diop comes in, and he brings different attributes, but we're just as strong. You know, and Cuenca is showing in the limited appearances that he's had that, you know, he's a footballer. He's a good footballer, and he just goes about his business, doesn't he? He seems like he's enjoying being here, which is good because he's not getting lots of opportunities every week. But whenever called upon, he's putting in a shift. So, yeah, I was really pleased with how they played, and I thought we did a really good job shutting Wolves out. And I'm still buzzing, really, from Tuesday. I thought it was just such a great way to bounce back. And, you know, sorry, go on, Mary.
No, I was just going to say, I think also on like our defensive shape, Wolves had a lot more possession, but didn't manage to capitalise on that. And I think that is also credit to our defensive shape because we know like we had more possession, I think, against Palace, not to bring back that match. But if you can't do something with it, then like fine, have the ball.
Yeah.
But and I think, yeah, we can see there they had 60% possession, but credit to us out of possession, we've obviously stopped them from actually capitalising on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and 5 shots on target each, but I would argue that ours were, you know, better chances to score than the 5 shots they had. So, yeah, defensive shape was fantastic. And actually now, you know, after Saturday's mini meltdown, you actually stand and look back at the last kind of month or so, we've won all competitions 4 out the last 5, if you include the Wigan match. And I think it's 5 out the last 7. So we're in brilliant form overall.
Really
so, you know, I think we all got a little bit carried away last Saturday. I do think it's probably time to stop bringing up the Europe debate every week, but let's see where we are in a few weeks' time. Okay, I want to move on, talk about the table, but before I do, we're welcoming today a very special guest, someone a lot of people will know from Fulham X. He is the president of the Sessa Lukic fan club, and we're really pleased to have him on the show. So just like to welcome everyone to Dazza. How you doing, Dazza?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Pleased to have you. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Dazza, I guess a lot of people follow you on X, and you know, they know your love for Sessa Lukic, but can you give us a little bit of a background on your relationship with Fulham and how you became Sessa Lukic's #1 fan?
Yeah, of course. So basically, my mum and dad, funnily, are both Arsenal fans. My granddad's Fulham, and that's sort of where the relationship stems from. You know, going to games. here, there when I was younger. And then I've moved up to the Greater Manchester area, and here we are, Mr.
I
Sasha
see.
Lukic.
So what made you, you've obviously been a big advocate of his, and actually since you joined, really. So I know that you kind of keep an eye out on, football across the continent, and I've seen your post recently on some targets that Fulham should have. That's a passion of yours, I take it.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I can spot someone that's good at football, but
Yeah.
realistically, I don't know as much as any I pretend to know. But when Lukic obviously made his appearances, and I think one of his first games was against Brentford away, and I was just like, yeah, he should have been sent off in the first half, but I like he's got that snappiness about him. And I was sold by him then, really.
Yeah, you're right. I think Sassa's got, he's got a bit of everything to his game, isn't he? It's not just like he can play that 6 or 8, equally well, which has been brilliant to see this year. So, but yeah, on behalf of all of us, we're really excited to have you on, and it's great to put a face to a name. So we're just talking about Wolves. We're now talking about the table, which is really congested in the middle there, guys. I think as of before last night, before City played, we were only 2 points off the Champions League places, and I thought, my God, end of February, 2 points off Champions League. But unfortunately, they won, so they've pulled clear a little bit. But we're right in the mix. Again, I don't think we should be talking about Europe just yet, but we are in the mix. I guess how you guys feeling at the moment? Are you guys happy with that? Are you happy where we are in the league, and does it give us a good platform to push on? And that's an open question, so please jump in.
Do you know what? I'll go. I'm just embracing it, and I think we absolutely should embrace it. I think we are going through like a wave of Europe chat, with a sneaky bit of Champions League every now and again. But just like coming back down to earth a little bit, like we are just doing really well as Fulham Football Club. We're sitting 9th. We're literally 6 points off 3rd, and I think regardless of Europe or whatever happens with that, we are having such a good season in so many different ways. Like our form against bigger teams, the way we're playing as a team, the way that like we've got confidence in pretty much every game we're playing, and like trusting Marco Silva with the way he's setting up each game. I think there's just so many positives to take. So I'm really enjoying seeing us there. I think it's mad how close it is. But I think, I just think we've got to embrace how we're not worrying about the bottom half for a change.
For sure. But the running isn't easy. I got Jack to put this slide together for us, and it's looking at the next 5 games. And actually, even beyond that, it doesn't get any easier. So we're looking at, obviously, we've got Man United away on Sunday, which we're all looking forward to. But then it's back to business in the Premier League without the star man, Dazza, because unfortunately, Mr. Lukic is serving a 2-game ban in the league from Brighton. We then go, to Tottenham at home. We know our home form has been a bit tricky recently. Arsenal away, guaranteed result. We always get a result against Arsenal. Liverpool, and then I think we've got Bournemouth away and Chelsea. So, Dazza, give us your thoughts on this run. I mean, it looks tough on paper, but how do you feel about it?
I mean, yeah, it's not pretty, is it? But then again, you look at the United game, is that something that breeds confidence if we get something against them? And Brighton's a happy hunting ground for us always. And then Spurs at home, they're just not the same. I mean, it might just me being a bit over-optimistic. But I think if we can get something from those first 2-3 games, I don't see why we can't go to the Emirates or host Liverpool and not have some optimism about getting a result against them.
Well, we have performed well against the big teams, haven't we? Mark, looking at that run, we still going to be in the top half and, coming into April?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends which Fulham shows up, right? And I think I referenced this in a previous pod, but Fulham-Brighton is the only match where I'm confident the ref is on our side, which always gives me a good laugh. But they're all very good teams, right? Brighton's a good team. Spurs, they had an injury crisis, but I think they're starting to get their players back. However, they have a very predictable manager in terms of how he plays and how he wants to attack. So hopefully Marco just does what he usually does there. But like, yeah, those are some top teams with, and they have those players that have moments of individual brilliance, and that's what worries me. That's the story of us against United, right? Like, we outplay them for 85% of the match, and then out of nowhere, 1-2 pass and Garnacho scores a 95th minute winner, or Bruno Fernandes shoots from outside the box and it's a deflection. Yeah, so we need to get past that hurdle first, but there's no reason why we can't still be in the mix. And we do perform better against teams higher than us because, they like to attack us and we're great in transition. So let's see where we're at, but it's not all doom and gloom yet.
No, it's a great point. Well, come on then, let's talk about this Sunday. One everyone's been quite excited for, I think, since the draw. Such a narrative around this game. A couple of years ago, we obviously had that game at Old Trafford in the quarterfinals where we were dominating the game and then it all just suddenly went wrong. And God, that's a hard one to remember, a hard one to think back on. That was a tough afternoon for us, and one I don't think any Fulham fan will forget in a hurry. But I don't think it's just that. Man United generally have been they've been a tough team for us, haven't they? We seem to have these little games against them where we outplay them, but very rarely get a result. They usually get a late goal. I've just pulled up a slide with the last 5 games, and it just kind of shows just how tight those games have been. And God, I look back at that list and think, we're a better team in pretty much all of those games. But I think there is kind of cause for optimism. I mean, they are struggling. I mean, they got a win on Wednesday night against an Ipswich team that's really kind of struggling at the moment, and they just about got through that with 10 men. So fair play, but they're going to give us opportunities. Dazza, I mean, how are you feeling going into this game? Are you confident, or are you kind of cynical that you're going to see much more of the same that we've seen against Man United in recent times?
I mean, yeah, I remember being in that away end when we lost 3-1 in the cup, and it was just sort of a heart-wrenching sort of, you could feel it drop moment when you saw Marco and Willian and Mitrovic all getting sent off at once. It was terrible. But then again, it isn't a United team in great form. It's a place I feel like we can go and outplay them, but it's whether we take our chances, which I'm sure we'll get 3 or 4 in the first half. But it's if we go in level, 1-0 up, 1-0 down, that's where half time it will be decided for me. If we're winning, then we've got a chance. If we're not, then I don't think so.
Yeah. I feel confident. I think it's it's time for the narrative to change in our favour. Mark, what's your view? Are you how are you feeling? You nervous? You confident? You excited? Come on, tell me what you're feeling.
I'm confident, and I think the boys are too. I think the boys are well up for it because they'll know, and Marco will have drilled it into them. They'll watch the tapes and they'll see that the one goal they let in was a fluke, and that they had, I know XG isn't everything, but they should have scored a lot more. I will caveat that by saying I think Amorim's going to play a full strength side. I think they've gone far enough, and they need the fans to get excited about something, right? Because they're definitely not getting Europe this year. So this is something the United fans can get excited about. So I think both sides will be putting out a full strength squad, and we can beat them, and we should beat them if they continue their current vein of form. But individually, Mazraoui, I like him. Ahmed, I love that kid. I wish we signed him because when he was on loan at Sunderland and he absolutely wrecked, I think there are our substitute centre backs, but he made them look silly, and he was just an 18-year-old at Sunderland. Yeah, he's a great player, so we'll see.
Well, I'm glad that he's injured until the end of the season, so that's
brilliant.
Yeah, as is, I think Mainu struggling for this game, and they obviously had that left back sent off on Wednesday night, so he won't be able to play either. So they will have to shuffle a little bit for that. But yeah, they're a threat. They're a threat from set pieces, actually. Bruno's delivery has been excellent in recent weeks, and Maguire keeps getting his big head on everything. So that's going to be a challenge. And Mary, I don't know, how do you think we'll line up now for this? I think that's the burning question, because we've just had a good result. Yeah, with 5 at the back, we've just had a really good result. I mean, do you see us keeping 5 at the back, or do you think we'll slip back into a regular 4, kind of 4-3-3 formation that we regularly play?
Trying to avoid being that person that sits on the fence, but like I'm in two minds because I think we've played, we've fought the back twice this season against them. Both times we have come out with a 1-0 loss. So is it time to change it and actually try 5 at the back and match them with what they're doing? But then who do you play? Because if we're going 5 at the back, do we drop Iwobi, or do we play him in the middle with AP and Lukic? Do we it's really, there's a few different combinations I feel we can do, and some key players that we don't want to lose. And like Pereira played brilliant on Tuesday night, but then if we're going 5 at the back, is there a place for him? So I think it's a really tricky thing to. I don't know what Marco would do. And my only thought is we've played 4 at the back twice and it's not come out right. But then do we want to go with what we know we're confident at and what we're very attacking at is with our 4 at the back? But then equally, our back 3, it shows a lot of strength. We've got a lot of, like, out of possession, we'll be very solid there. And I think at the moment, Man United have found the new gear where they're showing a bit more desire. They were 2-0 down against Everton, came back to 2-2. Went 1-0 down, shocking error last night for their first goal they conceded. But they came back, they were 10 men down. 10 men, 1 man down. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? 10 men down. That would be handy. And then they've come back and they won again yesterday. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I think they are going to show more desire, but how we're going to set up, I don't know.
Well, I think Dazza, you've probably had a bit of a think about this. I mean, what do we need to do? How do we need to approach this game? I think we've had 2 games this season where we've tried to impose our normal style and we haven't been able to make the breakthrough against their low block, and they've punished us at kind of key moments in the game. What do we need to change, and how do you kind of see us lining up to kind of combat their strengths, I guess?
I mean, personally, I don't think we should change from the 4. It's how we've played. It's almost like Goncalo Santos has brought that secret weapon into us, but we tried playing it back to back, Chelsea and then Ipswich, I believe. No, it would be in Southampton at home, and it just did not work. So it's sort of like something we can spring on teams, but if they get trying to sort of set up against it and really dig into it, we can be nullified.
Yeah.
So I feel like personally, I would stick with the 4, but then it all depends on, is Smith Rowe going to be fit for the game? Because obviously he was out on Tuesday. So, and who will be leading the line? I just don't know, but I would personally stick with the 4.
Well, let's stick our necks on the line then. Let's get everyone's line up for this one. Just quickly, Mark, you can run through how you think we're going to line up, and I suppose it's a kind of 2 questions. It's how you think we'll line up and how you'd like us to line up.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have faith that this time they're the same. I think it's going to be 4 at the back. I think it's going to be all the usual starters, but AP for Smith Rowe. Having said that, maybe, I don't know, like Iwobi, he's great, but I just feel like he's fallen off a bit. So I don't know who we'd put there instead. I don't know if you can start Willian or Sess or whoever else can fit in there. But yeah, I think it'll be the usual 11, but maybe AP for sure, maybe Muniz, but probably Raul. That's how I reckon Marco will set us up.
Interesting. What about you, Mary?
I think the same. I do think we'll stick with the 4. I wonder whether it's something that we can switch during the game, depending on the circumstance. Like if we need to be a bit more, if we're 1-0 up, let's say, or when we're 1-0 up, sorry. Like, can we change into a more defensive shape? And now that the boys have had opportunities to like really apply the different formations, they should be in a position where they can switch if need be. But I think we'll go with the 4, and I think, like you said, Mark, it will be the normal starters. I also think we'll have Jimenez up top. I know there's an absolute case for having Rodrigo there, but I just think we will see Jimenez at the top.
Interesting. And Daz, I'll throw to you. What would you like to see? What do you think you'll see? Keen to hear that.
I mean, I'd like to see Josh King. I mean, that would be nice, but starting, I don't think he has a prayer of starting at Old Trafford. But I think we'll be fairly full strength. I think it'll be Iwobi on the left, Adama on the right. Then it's a toss-up between Smith Rowe and AP in the 10. Again, probably the same level of toss-up between Rao and Muniz. But then other than that, I don't think the back sort of 6 or 7 needs to be touched.
I think I'm leaning towards the 4 at the back, just because, as Daz said earlier, it's kind of that's our tried and trusted formation. It's the formation that we have played the most this season, and I think that Marco will approach this with his best possible team. I do think at some point in the game we're likely to see the 5, whether that's we're holding on to a lead, and I could see Diop coming on, particularly because I think that we need to try and find a way towards the end of the match. If Fernandes is getting corners and free kicks into the box, Diop would be a great asset at clearing those. So I think at some point we'd see that. And if we were chasing a game, I could see us moving to a 5 and maybe bringing on Sess and just to try and kind of overload out wide. But I think Daz is right. I think we'll start with the 4, and I think Anderson will keep his place in that. So I'm not expecting too many changes in that area of the pitch. I think Mark's right. I think AP will start. He deserves to start. He's played really well recently. He had a good game on Tuesday, and his sub appearances have been excellent. And I think if Smith Rowe's not fully fit, I'd rather not risk him for this one. I think if AP's showing a bit of form, and he brings the strength of his set pieces, I think you keep him in. I'll be pretty upset, if I'm going to be honest, if Muniz doesn't get a chance on Sunday. I think he's the form striker out of the 2, and I'm worried that he won't. I think Marco has kind of, as the season's gone on, he's built the team to kind of rouse attributes, and I think he'll rely on that on Sunday. But I just think that Muniz is the form striker that's scoring goals from open play and causing the defenders more problems, particularly against a tough back 3 that Man United have. So I would really, really like to see him start. And I think I'll be more confident if I see him on the team sheet. But I've said that before, and Rao's come up with the goods. So,
What about in goal? What do we... I personally think Leno. Yeah, it has to be Leno, surely.
It has to be Leno. If it's Bender, I have turned the game off. I can't watch. I think that would be stuff of nightmares if I see him in the starting lineup. I'm sorry.
I think Marco's taking it. I think he's taking this. Yeah, I know. Sorry, Bender, but we're all here for Leno. I think we can see from the fact he rested players at Wolves that he's taking this game seriously. So I do expect to see Leno and full strength in the squad, to be honest. But I thought just double check that one.
Yeah.
I love your point about Diop as well, Dave. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with Maguire, who I've nicknamed to my United friends the Fridge, because he's absolutely massive as a unit, and he seems to get a header in every time he plays, or at both ends previously, but now just for United. But Diop can be an aerial presence to defend, but also to attack, right? And we can start causing them problems because he's 6'6" or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, he'll be good. He'll be a great sub.
Yeah.
Willian as well will be a good one to bring on. I think he showed his experience in Tuesday night's game, and I think that will be vital against Man United, especially with the size of the game and the meaning behind it, and the fact it's FA Cup. I think bringing him on, we've seen even against Palace, every game that he's come on, he's a key player, and I can absolutely see why we've got him back. So I think he'll be an important sub to come on.
Yeah, I agree. I think as Steve Reynolds has said in the comments, nullifying Fernandez is going to be quite important. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but maybe he's not the captain that, the stereotypical captain, and he comes under a lot of criticism for that. But genuinely, I think he's probably United's best player, and I think he's always a threat. So he's the danger man. I think if we can nullify him, not too concerned about Højlund and the likes. I think they're not the Man United they were. And I just think we've got to be brave, and we've got to be clinical. And if we can be both of those things, then we've got a great chance on Sunday. And I just think it'd be such, a nice end to the narrative of what's happened against Man United over the last few years, particularly in the cup. It'd be really satisfying if we can finally break the hoodoo and get one over on them. So on that, I just want to see what everyone's prediction is for the game. And Dazza, just so you're aware, last time we played Man United, we all thought we would win then that home game in January. So yeah, we weren't particularly
Tread carefully.
Tread carefully. But how does everyone see this? And don't forget, there could be extra time and penalties on Sunday. It could be in for a late one. So I'll go to Mark first. What do you think?
Oh, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Fulham win, because that's a standard Fulham win, and I don't know why, but we'll be under a lot of pressure, but we'll figure it out. I think we'll figure it out. And Maguire will score. 2-1 Maguire header from a corner.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mary?
I am also going 2-1. I think I was a bit stuck between 1-0 us and also 2-1. I think we'll go 1-0 up. And I wonder whether our 2-1 will be an extra time. If it is, I have faith in us, because I think we've got a lot more depth and strength in our squad than Man United. So, yeah, I think 2-1, and could possibly be a 2-1 in extra time.
Wow. Dazza, come on. What's it going to be? Is it going to be a clean sweep today?
I mean, I don't want to follow the herd, but I do think it will be quite a close one, which fingers crossed we're coming out on top, and I never want to predict a Fulham loss on air, so I'm going to go with... I'm going to go 2-2 and we go through on penalties. How's that?
Yeah, I like that.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, that won't be good for our hearts, but
No. Oh, no.
I could see something like that playing out on Sunday.
Who's taking penalties?
Well, we've been good at penalties, haven't we? I mean, we went out to Preston in the League Cup on penalties, but Jesus, we scored about 50 in that penalty shootout. So
that got into double figures, didn't it?
It did, yeah, it did. We've had a prediction in the comments as well. Will Durbin's gone 3-2. I was thinking it might be something like that. 3-1, 3-2. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, because we just don't, do we?
I don't think we've kept a clean sheet for like 5 or 6 games now.
That's not our style. I think so. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I follow quite a few of the players on Instagram, right? And whenever we get a clean sheet, Bernd Leno posts, right? But we haven't got a clean sheet in so long that he finally broke and posted like good win, even though like we let in a goal. So we finally broke Bernd.
You finally got him, yeah. I think we might go ahead. I think we might get a lead in this game. I think we might overwhelm them at the start, but it's just if it's close late on in the game, Man United always seem to have this way of scoring, don't they? And that's why I think Dazza's probably onto something, thinking it might go to extra time. And I will not look forward to a penalty shootout. That'll be awful. But if we come out on the right side of it, I suppose I'll take that. And on that note, I think we should look ahead after we've just given ourselves all we've predicted a unanimous Fulham win. We should look ahead at who we might get in the quarterfinals. Call me presumptuous and call me, I don't want to jinx things here, but obviously there's a lot of big teams out. Anyone theoretically who you'd fancy to get next? Mark, I think you before we went on there, you had a shout.
Yeah, I can reference it again. Burnley just to shove it down Scotty Parker's throat, and this ridiculous sort of fascination that maybe I'm just targeted with the wrong sort of algo, but this fascination that Trafford is, I'm sure he's a good keeper, but he hasn't let in a goal in 10 games. Yeah, okay, put him up against Salah and Erling Haaland. Like, let's put like 4 past Burnley. I would love that. That would be great.
They've kept so many clean sheets this season. That would be quite remarkable. But I like the shout. It'd be nice to get one over on Parker. Mary, who would you take next when we win on Sunday?
When we win, good shout. I'm looking at them, and a few of the games I'm wondering who would get through. Newcastle, Brighton. I feel like that would be a tough game for both teams. I'm not talking about us playing them. I'm just looking at who is going to actually get through these games. I think that there is a few that are going to be quite close. Bournemouth, Wolves. I think it depends how all these teams lay out, isn't it? But yeah, it'll be good to get one over on Scotty Parker, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I see that. It would be terrible to lose to a Scotty Parker team, but
true.
yeah. I mean, for me, I'll take. I think I'll take Plymouth after they win at the City of Manchester in the next round. Dazza, what about you? Who would you fancy? I'm not trying to, as I say, jinx things. I'm just kind of being confident and trying to get a view on how this might play out.
I mean, who I fancy? I mean, I think we could take practically anyone left, barring Man City at home. I mean, that might be a stretch too far, but I think we could get one over in 90 minutes, other than Villa. Villa in the league was one to forget, but other than that, I think we could get one over on any of them, and Wolves in the league. But the fact we're going to get Man City away in the next round is going to be a bundle of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what? That could very well happen. We normally get them in the FA Cup, don't we? I don't think we got them last year, but normally we get them in the FA Cup. So and abnormal about the time. So yeah, it would not surprise me if that was the case. Okay. One other thing I wanted to talk about today is there was some news earlier on our Discord from Fulham Fan News, and seen Jack Kelly's reported it as well, that apparently Tom Kearney's agreeing a 1-year contract extension to stay on at the club, which is amazing, really. I think, obviously he was out of contract in the summer. We're starting to see Tom do a lot more media work, where I think he's brilliant at. I saw him on Sky Sports News on Wednesday night. I think he was commentating on the Man United game, actually. So he's just, really kind of applying himself to that. And we're seeing him a little less this year, I think, than we have done in previous years. And it's no surprise. He's getting a bit older. Maybe doesn't have the legs, but the Cubs have come to an agreement. Well, it looks like they've come to an agreement on keeping him around for another year. So I just thought I'd gather your views on that. I mean, look, great for Tom Kearney. If he wants to stay on, he's a legend. I think he should call his own shots. I guess my only concern with it would be, if he's not going to be realistically competing for a place in the starting 11, is he kind of taking up a squad place? And do we need a bit more depth in that area? I don't know. Does it give the club an easy way out of not having to invest in that area next season would be my concern. Does anyone have some thoughts on that? It's an open question.
I think, well, we know Tom Kearney's been here through like the thick and the thin with Fulham. He's been up, he's been down, he's been up. And I think that speaks quite a lot of volumes. And I think the bigger picture of that is the impact that he has on the whole team. And I think we know that this team at the moment is really close-knit. It seems really positive. They seem to have, like, on the social media videos that we see, like from Bassi and all that, it just seems to be a really good vibe. And I think Tom Kearney's seen us in all our different lights. And I think that is really important. I like that he's doing a lot more media stuff. I think that's really good for him because, like you said, he's not going to be getting starting place. He's not the first sub on. He absolutely has a place. There's times in a game when you think we need Tom Kearney on to control that middle of the park. And he is really good at that. So there is absolutely a place for him. And I think fair play to him. Like, what loyalty. I think it's brilliant. I think it's really good that he signed it. And I think it speaks volumes about him as a character as well.
Yeah. So the leadership role is really important. I think Marco Silva values that too. Mark, what's your view?
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit more controversial. Obviously, he's a legend. I'm very happy. I'm not against having him another year. Let's put it that way. But like you said, I would like us to push onwards. And so we're keeping him for another year for his leadership qualities, which I understand. And that's good. You don't want too much change. Change has to be gradual. So you can't, we saw Forest do it for 2 seasons in a row until they finally got it right this season. But when you just wipe out a squad and have like 9 new players start, they don't know each other. The vibe is going to be weird. They'll need time to gel and acclimatize and understand each other and to create that culture again. So from a culture perspective, it makes a lot of sense. It just feels a bit safe if there was a downside. And it also feels like this is going to be, they're playing on the emotional aspect of Wembley and how much he means to us as a club legend, that perhaps it allows them to skimp a bit more on the transfer window. And I worry for Fulham, not next season, but the season after if we lose Marco. And I think we need to get ourselves as high up the table as quickly as possible so that we can attract the next ambitious manager who sees Fulham. I think now we're firmly established as a Premier League team. We're not even spoken of as yo-yoing anymore. But now I want us established as a challenging for Europe team, right? Consistently, like you wouldn't be surprised to see Fulham 7th or 8th year on year. I think that should be the next step. And I don't think Tom Kearney signing on or re-signing Willian is that kind of signing.
Okay. Dazza, your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. He's earned this contract and a lifetime more with Wembley and everything he's done for us. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Personally, I think that means Reed goes in the end in the summer. I'm not sure if his contract's up this summer or the summer after, but I think we'll be seeing the tail end of Reedy. And I think this new deal's him sort of showing Josh King the way into the first team, sort of being his mentor, maybe a few more starts for Kingy. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not opposed to it whatsoever.
Yeah. I think Reed's got because Reed signed a new contract at the same time João Palhinha signed his. So what was that? 18 months ago. So I think Reed's got another couple of years left. I think the challenge is with Reed, someone would have to buy him, and there's no guarantees of that. So, I wondered if, because we operate on very much a 1 in, 1 out kind of transfer policy, if it might be, the time where Tom moves into media, we free up a place in the squad and bring in more squad depth in that area. Now, I think you're right. I don't think we can keep both Kearney and Reed, but now we're going to have to try and find a buyer for Reed. It just makes it a little bit more difficult, unless they're thinking Kearney, kind of transitioning and they'll bring in extra depth as well. And Kearney will play even less of a role next year and really just be kind of a leader. And as I said at the start, I think Tom Kearney's a legend. He's been one of my favourite players. As you mentioned, Dazza, he's provided some incredible moments and he's still doing it. Look at a couple of times this season, you've got the Spurs away game where he scored the equaliser, fabulous goal. We won't talk about the sending off. And then against Bournemouth and over Christmas, he came on as a sub and it was one of the best substitute appearances I've ever seen. He was absolutely brilliant. And I think Cottage Tactico put out a tweet earlier today. He's still per 90 got the highest pass percentage in the league by some distance as well. He's 92%. So he is, I think there's a place still for him. I just worry a little bit that if we can't move Reed on, we don't have enough quality in that area if we get an injury to your man or to Berger. That would be my only concern, but hopefully it won't come to that. It's been fun. I think we've gone positive again for Man United. I hope that's not a bad omen, but I'm feeling, a bit more confident. And I think we'll definitely give them a game. I think we'll definitely be competitive on Sunday, and I am really looking forward to it. So I just wanted to say, everyone who's been following tonight, thanks very much for following along and for sending in your comments. You'll find a link to all of our social media pages in the podcast description, and also a link to our Discord. Dazza's on our Discord. He's very active on there. So you want to catch up with Dazza, that's the place to be. So is Mark, so is Mary, so is all of us in That's So Craven. A number of other big Fulham social media accounts have all subscribed. We've got a great forum there for Fulham chat without all the noise of X, especially recently. So yeah, please feel free to check that out. I'm sure we'll be doing a pod on Monday to discuss the Fulham win, and really looking forward to either joining or listening in on that, depending on who's available. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for joining. So Mark, thanks very much.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Catch you on the next one.
Yeah. And Mary, do you reckon this time we're going to break the prediction?
I hope so. I hope so. Last time, I just remember you texting in the chat being like, well, our predictions went well then. And but hopefully this time it is better. I don't know how Man United are our bogey team, but hopefully this is the change. Like you said, we'll change narrative. But yeah, I've enjoyed chatting about the Wolves game and chatting about Man United. So fingers crossed, we're through to the next round.
That'd be great. And Dazza, honestly, really, really pleased you could join us. It's been great to have you on. And yeah, it'd be great to, maybe we'll get you on again sometime when you're free. And thanks for joining in the Discord as well. Your contribution's been brilliant.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you for having me on, obviously. I was a bit nervous to start with. I don't know if you could tell, probably. I was stuttering everything. But fingers crossed, I'll try and pop in for the next one when I'm invited along.
Good man, good man. Okay, so Mary, going to try and get this right this time. Thanks again to everyone for joining. And Mary, can you see us out, please?
You are it.